Welcome back, viewers. We're talking about a topic that touches us all, transport accidents. We're here with our guest, Don Maffia. Don, transport accident law, it's very complicated, isn't it?
It is, John. It is complicated. In Victoria, there is a no-fault system that provides for medical expenses and also some wages, limited wages, and also lump sum if a person's sustained a permanent impairment greater than 10% of the whole person. They also have access to a common law right, John. The common law right is obviously right to sue and must prove fault and also must prove sustained serious injury.
Well, Don and John, prior to the break, we were talking about that taxi driver case. Very tragic set of circumstances where they finally tracked down who the driver was.
That's right.
And there was a reduction to the award of damages of 10%.
Yep.
And you went into the facts of that.
Well, that's right, yep.
Look, there's another interesting case I want to touch on. It's the case of Xana and Xana. This is where an 11-year-old boy was behind the parent's vehicle, trying to drive the car in. His foot slipped from the brake, went onto the accelerator. The mother, who was only about 3 or 4 metres away, got run over.
Sorry, Tony, we've got an 11-year-old boy driving a car.
John, I've seen it happen in the past, you know. The parents let their kids get in the car just to sort of show them a bit how to use the controls.
In my view, it's unacceptable, Tony. Tony, a car is a dangerous weapon. I can't believe this occurred.
Well, I've seen it more than once where parents put the kids in the car and they say, look, they're in this car next to them, they're sitting next to them, and they say, do this and do that, and sort of trains them a bit on how to drive a car.
Well, when you're next, maybe that's slightly different.
But that's what happened in this case. In this case, let me give you a bit more of the facts.
All right.
Before he got into the car on his own, on previous occasions, he was in the car with his father. So the father was basically saying, do this, do that, and whatever. But on this occasion, he was in the car on his own. The mother was 3 to 4 metres outside and sort of waving him on. He's hit the wrong pedal. Then what happened, Don?
That's right, and unfortunately the mother was standing in front of the car, Tony, and the car ran over the mother and she sustained quite significant crush injuries to her leg and some burns as well as a result of the exhaust pipe.
In fact, she's very lucky to be alive. And then the big issue in this case was fault. Whose fault was it, John? What do you reckon? Whose fault should it be?
So I take it the injured mother has sued her son.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
You know,
so,
an 11-year-old, yeah.
Well, look, clearly an 11-year-old driving a car is still duty-bound to take care of people that he may affect, and in this case it was his mother. But at the same time, anyway, I've still got a few issues about this, Tony, but anyway.
Well, that's correct, John.
So what do you think?
Well,
I mean, is it a right decision, you know, to be able to sue him?
The High Court in these type of matters said, regardless of age, the driver of a vehicle does owe a duty of care to other people, other road users, vehicles and
That's
all
understandable.
Well, look, let me give you a bit more of the facts. In the first instance, the judge had heard the case, gave the mother 50% of her damages. So I think they were assessed at $700,000 and it was reduced by 50%.
For contributory negligence.
Yes, her contribution being outside the front of the car.
All right.
Yeah.
What about the fact that she allowed her son to be the driver? Was that is that part of the contribution?
It wasn't, not so much in the judgment by the Court of Appeal.
All right.
It was more so the reduction was based on the fact that the mother stood in front of the vehicle. In itself, it's risky, regardless of the driver.
Yes.
Well, let me take it a step further. The insurance company in New South Wales wasn't happy with the 50-50 outcome. They appealed it to the Court of Appeal in New South Wales, and she got a further reduction. They knocked off 80% from her damages. That sounds to be more in line with what you're thinking, John.
Well, yes, Tony.
Well, I thought you were a lot more compassionate than that.
Look,
what's going on?
I am, but at the same time, I still can't comprehend the situation where a mother has allowed her son, an 11-year-old son, to drive a car.
I think you should blame the father in this case, John, because in the past, the father was in the car with the child. So
well, you have to look at the actual what, in fact, he was doing, John. He was actually just moving the car only forward 3 to 4 metres. And what the court looked at was the fact that it's not a very complex act to be doing, or manoeuvre. It was all he was doing was controlling the brake pedal.
But Don,
and the mother,
an 11-year-old boy in charge of a car, that's like, you know, it's a dangerous weapon. It's like giving a kid a gun
and saying,
Here.
don't shoot anyone.
Yeah, don't shoot anyone. You're
I'm
just
sure-
But
asking
John,
for trouble.
that raises another interesting point. Assuming this child was 8 years of age, do you reckon there would have been any liability there?
Well, I think it would depend on, again, the act it was doing and
Well, under the
obviously how
judgment.
many times. Under the judgment, then it
Didn't matter.
Didn't matter, that's right. If it was the first time and this happened, then I would think that, unfortunately, there would be no duty or even a complete reduction to 100 or to 100%. So it depends on what they were doing.
My
in the act.
understanding of the criminal law is that if you're under 8, there's a presumption that you can't commit a crime. Has that changed? Has it always been like that?
I think it would be hard to prove a person's of that age is negligent.
No,
I think-
Tony, I
think-
agree. That is the
right.
case.
I think the message you've got to send here is use a bit more common sense, because I think you give an 11-year-old, probably, as John would put it, a gun and say the bullets are in there, but don't press the trigger.
At the same time, the mother has clearly sustained serious injuries and she's entitled to compensation.
But
Particularly,
she is, John. She'd get her no-fault benefits.
she'll get a no-fault benefits, but as we all know, your common law damages are a lot greater. And look, she is entitled to damages. Again, there's the contribution aspect, which, well, I would have thought 80% is. I still think.
John, I
it's
wonder if
probably
she
a bit
hates.
too high.
I wonder if she loves her son just as much these days. She probably doesn't particularly like him anymore.
Of course she does.
Maybe
no,
who knows what can
no,
do.
Tony, no. But as we all agreed or stated earlier, just blame the father.
Yeah, I think so.
I reckon
That's right.
Maybe you could you sue the father, you think, for putting him in the car? Probably said to the mother, look, this kid knows how to drive.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know.
he actually was, the car that he was driving was registered in her name. It was a mother's car.
But still, it was a father that
So-
showed him the manoeuvres of how to drive the car up
be
and down
quite
the driveway. So
yes.
would he be? He wouldn't be picked up by the transport accident legislation. No. But could you sue him under the? No, you can't, because it's the householder.
No.
Assuming the mother wasn't the mother and it was the auntie or a stranger, you think you could sue the father and the child?
I don't think so.
I think he could try, but
Public
whether it'll be
liability
successful-
insurance, perhaps. I don't know.
Well, maybe.
You know, you could
Depends
sue
on
the first, yeah,
circumstances.
for putting him in.
Tony, this type of case does illustrate how
Things
a
go
car is a dangerous weapon. And please, as we stated earlier, be careful on the roads. It's a dangerous weapon, and particularly the new and young drivers. You've got a dangerous weapon in your hand. Just don't speed.
And the courts obviously also use some common sense as well, as in this case, instead of standing in front of a car when it's moving, you could stand aside.
This is a
look after
topic we
safety.
could discuss forever, but we're going to have to wind it up. And I want to thank you for coming on board, Don.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you,
Thank
Don.
you
viewers.
very much for your help.
Thanks.
Viewers, don't go away. Stick around, because we've got Kathy's mailbag coming after the break. Thank you.